Good afternoon. My name is Mileyka Burgos-Flores, and I am the Executive Director of the Allapattah Collaborative CDC, a nonprofit organization focused on implementing placemaking techniques to foster identity, support wealth building strategies in marginalized communities of color, and advocate for policies and procedures that support equitable, comprehensive, and sustainable community development. Our goal is to protect and strengthen the identity, charm, and cultural appeal of our Allapattah neighborhood, as well as other ethnic communities in Miami, by ensuring that long-term residents are able to thrive in an environment plagued with disparities, misinformation, and disinvestment. In recent years, we have worked with our community to develop a strategic plan to mitigate rapid displacement and improve the quality of life of long-term residents. Our strategies focus on collaboration, education, and coaching to empower individuals, micro businesses, and the community. Monday Night Talks, the intersection of small business and health, is a 5-part series where we invite you to join us every Monday in the month of November for a 1-hour conversation about impacts of COVID-19 on small business owners and their customers. In these sessions, we'll discuss topics that bridge the intersection of business and social determinants of health. We'll explore how the effects of COVID-19 have magnified socioeconomic issues that ultimately hurt businesses on several fronts. Monday Night Talks aims to create an informed conversation about the weekly topic and provide a collective way forward as we continue learning how to mitigate challenges in our post-COVID-19 society. We hope these conversations improve engagement, knowledge, and strengthen relationships among stakeholders. It is an honor to host this virtual event today. I am delighted to introduce you to my esteemed colleague and co-host, Sheyla Pierre, Principal at SocialBridge Consulting. Sheyla?
Thank you. I am happy to be here. My name is Sheyla Pierre, and I am a consultant with SocialBridge. My social work and business, and because of that, I was motivated to work in gap, profit, and purpose. So my work is to work with clients to build sound corporate social responsibility strategies. So our work aims to solve social problems through creative solution, strategy, and partnership. During our conversation, we will discuss housing and health, how this impacts you as a business. To join our conversation, I'm excited to have Natalie Castellanos, Director of Policy and Affairs at Health Foundation of Florida, as well as Annie Lord, Director of My Home for All. Annie has over 2 years of experience in community development. Thank you all you do in joining this conversation. Mileyka?
Yeah, you were breaking up a little bit, so I'm just going to rephrase what you said. Sheila's background is in social work and business, and it motivated her to start this work by bridging the gap between profit and purpose and partnering with clients to establish sound corporate social responsibility strategies. Her work aims to solve social problems through innovative solutions, strategy, and thought partnership. She is introducing, and we're very happy to have our panelist today, Natalie Castellanos, a public interest lawyer turned Director of Policy and Public Affairs at the Health Foundation of South Florida, as well as Annie Lord, Executive Director of Miami Home for All. Annie has over 15 years of experience in community development. Thank you both for joining us today. And as I wanted to share with you the objectives of this session today. So, as we know, the COVID-19 pandemic has stormed in and continues to affect our everyday lives. 9 months into this crisis, many businesses have been forced to close. Some are hanging on by a thread, while others are doing what they can to survive this new reality. Today, we will dive into the implications of safety, housing stability, and disposable income as we support small businesses and clients and employees, especially during COVID-19 pandemic. Our objective is to gain a better understanding of the impact of housing and safety on disposable income we use to enjoy the offerings the small businesses in our communities have. also the ones that provide jobs for us, right? So we also dive deep into the importance of reliable housing during COVID-19 and what are the best practices and resources available to ensure housing safety during this pandemic in Miami-Dade County. Let's get started, Sheyla.
Thank you, Mileyka. And before I get started, I make sure that you all can hear me okay. Am I coming in? Can you hear me?
Cannot hear you well. It's very choppy, but we were hearing you much better earlier.
Hold on one sec. As you know, in Miami, there's a tropical. Go ahead, Mileyka.
A tropical storm. No, go ahead.
Okay, so you guys can hear me? Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so let's get started. First slide. Thank you so much for your patience. We know that there was a pending storm, so it impacted a lot of our internet connections, but we're excited to get going. So as Mileyka mentioned, this is Monday Night Talks, where we're talking about the intersection of small business and health. So this is for all business owners, small and all sizes. We really want to speak to you about how health issues really impact your business, your clients, and break that down to you. So next slide. Okay, so let's talk housing and COVID. So one of the most important issues confronting South Florida is housing concerns, right? I'm sure if we were all in a room chatting, most of you would agree. Housing is an issue that we see a lot in South Florida. And we know that because 50% of South Floridians are cost burdened. This means that they're spending more than 30% of their income on their housing. So I'll say that again. When you hear the term cost burden, that means that the federal government states that we should spend no more than 30% of our income on housing. What we see in South Florida is that we're around 60 to 65% of our income is spent on housing. So that means when we think about other needs such as transportation, food, a lot of times those areas are impacted because we're spending a lot of our income on our housing. So that's an issue, right? And so when you think about business owners, why should you care about affordable housing and what is it, right? And so housing costs can impact your employees, right? And where you as a business owner can have your business established, right? Available and affordable housing and allows employers to attract and retain a diverse pool of employees, right? So depending on, where your business is located does have an impact on the type of employees that you're able to attract. And then affordable housing is a cause of concern, right? And so this is something that we do want you as business owners to see is how is someone's housing situation impacting their health, right? And so as I explained, someone who is cost burdened, so that's someone, again, who's spending more than 30% of their income on housing, right? Next slide. Next slide. Perfect. So the intersection of business and health. As Mileyka explained, this series is really aimed at talking about the intersection of business and health and social determinants of health, because we really want business owners to see that community issues that are going on, such as affordable housing, which we're going to do a deep dive about today, as well as transportation, employment, all these other areas, which are social determinants of health, which are factors that can affect someone's health outcome, does impact your business, right? So when we think about, being a small business owner, you're providing some sort of a product or a service. If someone is cost burdened and they're spending their income on housing, it does impact how they're able to spend within community, right? So when we think about businesses and the benefits, right? Think about your workforce, right? Because the health of the business is work. So when we think of this, think about think about increased productivity because your workforce is a lot healthier, and we think about a environment that has less risk, so a environment of your employees having the potential to get hurt. And let's also think about what are the community. It's small business, you're engaging with your community, right? And so one thing is brand awareness. So being able to be in a community where they see that you as a business, you're doing something that directly impacts the community business. So this helps to build brand awareness. This helps to have a stronger community partnership. This helps to improve consumer relationship and interaction. When we think about this past year with COVID-19, or even some of the things that we were seeing around social justice, consumers really were paying attention to what are businesses doing to give back to their society, right? Consumers want to spend money with businesses that are socially responsible, and that is supported by data. Okay, next slide. So let's talk disposable income, and we'll also share some stats on affordable housing. And these stats were shared by Miami Homes for All. So thank you, Annie. We'll talk about some of the stats that we're seeing here. So another common measure for housing affordability is housing cost overburden rate, which measures the proportion of housing or population that spends more than 30% of their disposable income. And so we talked about that. When you think about someone is spending more than 30%, this takes away from the amount that they would have to use for disposable income, right? So the amount of money that they have aside from having paid off housing, food, transportation, those are monies that they could potentially use at a small business such as yourself. And so when we think about Miami-Dade County, we mentioned that over 50% of households in Miami-Dade County are cost burdened, and 250,000 households in Miami-Dade County earn less than $35,000 per year. And so when we think about that we should be spending 30%, but in Miami-Dade County, we're around 60 to 65%. This is really telling us that affordable housing is an issue in Miami-Dade County. And so to talk about what we're doing in Miami-Dade County, I want to talk more with our panelists about what are some of the resources, or what are we doing? So Natalie, can we talk about, let's start off with that connection between health and housing. You're on mute. It's okay.
Natalie, I think that you're muted.
I am. Thank you. I usually don't do that too. So thank you, Sheyla and Mileyka, for having me here tonight. I'm really honored to be able to have this conversation about the importance of housing to health. Housing is a health issue. I'll start by saying place matters. We know that there is a growing body of evidence and research that shows that a person's zip code means more to their health than their own genetic code. We've seen this play out here in Miami-Dade County. A few years ago, there were headlines that showed that there were zip codes separated by just a few miles that had individuals living in those zip codes with an average life expectancy a difference of 15 years. And so the main zip code that the headlines that came out a few years ago we're talking about was 33136, which we know just borders Allapattah. And some of you who are business owners in the area may even have your business located in 33136, which has the lowest life expectancy in Miami-Dade County in the 60s, compared to some of the zip codes that are just a few miles away on the coast. Key Biscayne has the highest life expectancy. And when you dig a little deeper into the data, you can actually see place matters even more at the neighborhood level. So there are census tracts in Miami-Dade County with an average life expectancy as low as the 60s. I think 33136, I misspoke, is in the 70s. And there's census tracts in Key Biscayne with life expectancy as high as 91. So we're talking 30 years of difference. And so Sheyla mentioned, and I know that you've been talking about through this series, that social determinants of health is sort of how we are researching this and talking about it. It used to be a sort of esoteric, something you only heard in universities, but slowly you're hearing policymakers talk about it a lot more. And so that's just that idea that where you live, work, play, send your kids to school matters. And so within that body of research, housing is among the best studied and best understood social determinants of health. There's a lot of research that goes into understanding why housing is a health issue. And so you have on one extreme, you have folks and individuals who are experiencing homelessness. And we know that they have life expectancy as low as the 40s and 50s, very, very low. And that's one extreme end. But you can also talk about housing stability on a less extreme end. And this is something that Sheyla was alluding to, just affordability issues. So when a family struggles to pay their mortgage or pay rent, they have less income available to pay for nutritious foods, to access healthcare. They're more likely to end up delaying care because they're cost burdened. But you can think about too, even what does it take for a child and a family to thrive? If a child wants to participate in extracurricular activities, if a family is struggling just to pay rent, that child is going to have less opportunity. And so this has shown in a number of studies that children that are growing up in cost-burdened households are also struggling. And so that's kind of where this cycle comes in. I'll kind of close us out by bringing home this example. I know it's something we're sick of talking about, that's pun intended, but how COVID-19 here. So COVID-19, we know, is both an economic issue but primarily it's a health issue. And knowing that social determinants of health, knowing that income and wealth are key factors in influencing someone's health, the fact that COVID-19 is impacting people's economic status is going to have an impact on our health for years, for decades. I mean, we're talking about a generational impact at this point. We knew that affordable housing was already at a crisis point, the lack of availability, and it's groups like yours, Mileyka and Annie, that have been working on it for so long and sort of ringing the alarm. And what did COVID-19 do? It came and it completely destabilized an already very precarious group of individuals. And so we're here to talk solutions, but I just wanted to make that link between affordable housing and health, and really help people understand that housing is a health issue. And I hope we can start thinking about and talking about all the ways that housing impacts health. I didn't touch on housing quality, but you can also think about the different ways that having mold and having different problems in your housing quality can also impact health. But we're going to focus today on that affordability issue.
Yes. Wow. So many nuggets of information, Natalie. Thank you so much. And we're going to come back to you. But as we continue, I want to just talk to Annie very quickly, because I know that Annie has been working very diligently in affordable housing in Miami-Dade County. But then COVID came. So Annie, what has been the impact of COVID on the need of affordable housing?
Right. So it has desperately sped up the timeline by which we need to intervene. As Natalie said, we already had 250,000 households that were kind of just getting by in Miami-Dade County, and also paying more than they could afford for their housing. And so you sort of think about that's the universe of super vulnerable households, and then COVID came in. The overlap between those households and jobs that were impacted by COVID, it's a pretty tight overlap. And so what we're seeing is, as a result of COVID, we're seeing super high unemployment. Miami-Dade is the only county in the state that has unemployment higher in September than in May, at 13%, which is more than double the national average right now. And then there was a recent study out of the Census Bureau called the Housing Pulse Survey, which is a self-reported data. So, you sort of take it with a grain of salt. But I think the important thing to pay attention to here is the magnitude of renters in Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach that are anticipating being evicted in the next 2 months. And that's over 100,000 renters. So what's the proportion of that might happen in Miami-Dade? Tens of thousands, maybe even the majority. And so, that's like basically come January 1 is what we're anticipating. Now, I think it'll play out a little more slowly, but you're talking about months, not years, probably. So it's not a good picture.
So sorry to hear, so sad to hear, and we're all here in Miami-Dade County. And I just want to kind of bring this back to the small business owner. Maybe you're hearing all these terms, social determinants of health and affordable housing and cost burdenness. What this all means to us, right? And this is what it means. So you have a person making $3,000. Let's say you have an employee that this person makes $3,000 a month, and that's on the generous side. If this person needs to spend $2,000 in rent, all they have is $1,000 to pay for their food, which averages about $250 on the low side, to make sure that they that they pay for their transportation, whether that's car insurance, gas, and so on, to make sure that they pay for their cell phone, to make sure that they pay for the electricity or all their utilities. So imagine if that person, even your own employee, is going to be able to afford the products that you sell. So if you're in a restaurant and you're paying, let's say your cook $3,000, and your cook needs to live, maybe your cook is in Allapattah or in Brickell or you name it, because that's where your restaurant is. What is the amount of transportation this person needs to spend to get to that job? Because it's not the same thing if you walk to work than if you have to drive, probably take the tolls, if you end up moving down south because it's less expensive, but then you spend more in transportation because, many times you have to take a toll road or anything like that. So imagine the people that you're paying money to, your own employees, unable to make it to work on time. This is what affordable housing means to you, business owner. Can your employees make it to work on time because they're not caught up in traffic because they have to move so much farther? Can they afford the product that you're selling? Can the people in your neighborhood or in neighboring areas afford what you're selling? Maybe they were able to afford it before the pandemic, but with this new crunch, the speed up timeline that Annie is talking about, maybe not anymore. And that affects your business because that's your bottom line. That's the number of people that are able to buy at your establishment. Someone that used to go to happy hour in your restaurant may every Friday may not be able to do that anymore. Even if they wanted to, even if they wear a face mask, it's more an economic situation than a health situation because the money is just not there anymore. And that's where we bridge that gap. If people were able to pay $800 for rent and make $3,000, then you have a better average where you say, okay, in my personal expenses, I'm going to spend X amount. I'm going to be able to save something for the rainy day, but then I'll be able to enjoy a little something. Maybe I'll buy a necklace. Maybe I'll buy a drink. Maybe I'll go out to dinner. Those situations are not happening anymore because we simply don't have the money. Unfortunately, that's what it means when we say that our families in Miami-Dade, more than 250,000 people, families, and when I say families, I'm talking about mom, dad, and children, Imagine the number of children that are unable to go to after school programs or get extra help now that they're doing everything virtually. That's what we mean by cost burdenness, unable to take advantage of services that are needed for them to sustain and thrive. It creates a bigger problem later on. So, Sheila, are you back?
I'm back. Can you hear
Can
me?
we? Yeah, I think
These
so.
the conversation is so good. I'm just here and I'm just nodding. I'm agreeing with you. So much great points mentioned. And Mileyka, just painting that picture for small business owners, it's true, because you don't really make the connection that it's so hard for me to, get food on the table because I'm paying so much in housing, right? I often hear that, too, like, I just can't afford rent. I can't afford rent. When really someone is just cost burden. And what we also see is this is not just something that, this is something that affects business owners too, right? Being able to, afford your rent, right? So really good points mentioned.
Wonderful. Well, to our guests, Natalie and Annie, what are you guys doing? What is the Health Foundation doing to combat this crisis? And what is Miami Home for All doing? Either of you can start.
Sure. So I'll go ahead and start with this. So the Health Foundation of South Florida is primarily a grant-making organization. So we work in Broward, Miami-Dade, and Monroe to provide funding to nonprofits that are serving community. And so we are a public health entity. We like to use other tools besides just our money. We are also a business in this community, and we have a vested interest in making sure that our community is thriving. So what are we doing related to COVID-19? We have identified some vulnerable neighborhoods and are trying to increase access to testing. I think it's really important. I made that joke earlier that we're all sick of COVID. But one of the things that's important is that it's still here, and the holidays are upon us, and we're going to be with our family. And so anyone that has any level of exposure, if you're leaving your home to go to work, to go to your place of business, you should get tested regularly. Know what your status is. And if you don't have symptoms, that doesn't matter. You should still get tested regularly. So the Health Foundation has really been pushing and identifying especially vulnerable neighborhoods. So Allapattah is one neighborhood that we've been working in, Little Havana, South Dade, and up into Broward. And we also have some churches that we're working with in Little Haiti and up in North Miami. The idea of vulnerability too is not necessarily that there's more cases of COVID, but it's that there's factors in the community that are making it more difficult if an outbreak is to come. That means there's lots of individuals who don't have health insurance, more people living in poverty, less access to cars and vehicles. And so those are the kinds of things that we're thinking about. And then obviously my position is policy and public policy. And so always looking at public policy solutions that we can be a part of advocating for to ensure that our community is positioned to recover, so we can get through this. And we don't end up displacing all of the crucial, important workers that are the backbone of this community. If folks are being pushed out to Broward, to South Dade, they're not going to be able to come back. A 2-hour bus commute to come to work is not sustainable. And so we do want to do everything possible to make sure that we're able to recover from this crisis.
Awesome.
Thank you, Natalie.
Annie?
So right, I think the way that Miami Homes for All is trying to impact this crisis and to mitigate or somehow prevent, mass displacement are three things. And we're trying to do this under the auspices of this new eviction task force that we have convened with, legal advocates like Legal Services of Greater Miami, with academia, with the court system, with all the different municipalities and with the county, which have received federal funds to provide rental assistance. So this task force has already started to meet, and our primary objective right now is to ensure that the dollars that have been allocated from the government to help people make rent and not get evicted, that those dollars are deployed. Because right now it's actually, there's a bit of a struggle in terms of getting, the information about the dollars to the people that need those dollars. And so, someone in the chat asked about how can we support our employees if they need help? Send them to a website called accesshelps.org, which I put in the chat, and all of the resources available for individuals and for business owners. And I'm sure Mileyka and Sheyla have talked about this before, but they're located in that one website. So that's a really good resource. And there's I hate to say this, but there's millions of dollars still that have to be deployed to help people, and that are available, more or less now. So do check that out. And I think that, going forward, I think there are also things that we can do urgently to mitigate, the risk of some kind, of anyone experiencing an eviction. In particular, and, I would look out for this in the upcoming commission meeting. We don't know, if and when it will hit, but we're trying to get a policy passed that would extend the notification period that anyone household would have if they were going to be evicted. So it doesn't prevent the eviction, but right now, if you live in Miami-Dade County, except in the city of Miami or in the city of Miami Beach, then you get 15 days notice. You get 2 weeks to pick up everything, find a new place to live and move. And if you've already been struggling, then you probably don't have the first month's last month and security deposit saved up and ready to go. I mean, it's a real hardship. So what we're asking for is an extension to 30 days notice. So more like a month. Right. So again, it's not, are we super excited about this? No, but we really think it could make a difference if you happen to be in that situation where you've got to move. I think we're also looking for other policies, and we have identified a few that could really make a difference in preventing people from being evicted. Or if they are evicted, then how do we prevent that from making it impossible for you to find a new place to live or a job, right? Because that could get on, being evicted affects all sorts of things in people's lives. So we are working to identify and move forward on those policies as quickly as possible, and also to identify new sources of funding and to push for additional resources to help people. And not just resources so that you can make it to the next month, because right now the resources are structured in such a way where you could get the help, pay your landlord the back rent, and the landlord could still evict you, right? If you're, if you default again, or if you can't make rent again, or if they have for no reason, in fact, that's a lot of people's circumstances. So we're trying to come up with policies that could actually buy people more time so that they can, as they begin to get employed again and get, some more savings saved up, that they've got the time to do that and really recover in the face of this economic catastrophe that we've all been working through. So I think that's like the fundamental thing that Miami Homes for All is working on right now.
Amazing and powerful work, Annie. Thank you so much for everything that you guys are doing there. Thank you. So we have some questions from the audience. Vania Delisford asks, what resources can business owners share with employees who may be experiencing housing issues? What advice can we give them?
So I think Annie, and thank you for the question. Annie answered part of the question with accesshelps.org. I agree, that's a great resource. I would add to that by saying, so miamidade.gov, they have great resources on affordable housing, different types of housing. It's a good central place to find information about housing in Miami-Dade County. I would also say sometimes with employees, let's say they're falling behind on their rent, you have resources such as Community Action Agency that you can look for towards rental assistance, because that may be, a real life situation with an employee that, communicates to you, hey, I can't afford rent this month. So there are resources in Miami-Dade County that can help towards rental, so paying rent as well as utilities. So again, that's Community Action Agency. So I think we answered that question.
Yes,
there was another one. Yeah,
I have one more quick add. I second all of those resources, and just throw back to my public interest lawyer roots. I do think, and Annie mentioned this, the looming eviction crisis is a serious one. And so there's a resource online called Florida Law Help. So Florida Law, LAW, help. I'm pretty sure that is. And that's for individuals who want to check out self-help resources to know what are your rights as renters right now. I'm pretty sure they've been updating things. And also the Community Justice Project, if you just Google them, they have some up-to-date information so that folks can look at what are their legal rights at this time, and also potentially get connected to legal services if it looks like you might be evicted and you believe that you disagree, or your employees. So I would definitely encourage folks to get legal resources available and know what their rights are.
Yeah, and I think that I totally agree with all of you. And sometimes we think that the only help that we can give is like an increase or help them with money or give them money. Yes, if you can actually give your employees a gift of money, give it to them because they need it. But the other thing that you can do is have resources. Like sometimes the people that work in our businesses are people that need a lot of resources. Maybe one of the ways is to have a little one sheet with a lot of these resources. You can reach out to the Allapattah Collaborative, and we can definitely help you with that type of resources. So you can have a resource sheet for your business and for your employees as well. For example, the way that Natalie mentioned, legal help. Maybe you can be just supportive. Maybe that's all you need to be. Maybe you can help them financially, or maybe you can just, refer them to better services and open that line of communication. Sometimes when people are going through such a tough time, they just need someone that they can listen and they can trust. And if it could be their employee, then much better. So we have another question from Corporate Serenity saying, who do we get in direct contact with from Miami-Dade representatives to help area in 33161 area code? So they want help in that specific zip code. I think that all these resources can help you. And back to what we were saying, we're putting all these resources in the chat box. If there's any other specific resources to the zip code, let me know. But I think that Access Helps is one, and everything that we have mentioned so far will also be able to help you there. Jeremy Lynn said, when you say location matters, I think this is more for Natalie. Is it because of the type of business in the area too? Or for example, lower income areas are typically, they're just talking about when you talked about location matters, which is the way that you open, and it's so true. They want to know if the reason why the location matters is because of the type of businesses in the area, or because of any other reason.
So yeah, Jeremy, I we have a little chat feature here that I was typing back to you, but I think you're on Facebook. So yeah, absolutely. So workplaces have a huge impact on health. You can think about just from like a worker safety perspective, and conditions is one, sort of the physical infrastructure of the space. But you can also think about the policies and practices that are in place. So I think those are the two ways to think about how, as an employer, you can make sure that your employees are set up. So is there flexibility in case workers get sick? In terms of policies, obviously paying fair and on time. I know it's not you all that are on here learning more, but there are some employers who don't pay their employees, so those are some of the factors I think that a workplace can have on individuals' health. And I also want to talk about, so businesses can obviously contribute a lot, and the residents of a neighborhood can contribute a lot to make a neighborhood better. But we have to also sort of face the reality that there are neighborhoods that have been intentionally excluded from the type of thriving that other neighborhoods have seen due to racial issues and our dark history in this community of redlining. Miami is no different from all the communities all around the country. And so a lot of the communities are already sort of at a deficit and have to fight. And I know businesses are a really good place to start and improve on that. But the reality is that a lot of racial equity issues are tied into housing.
Totally
Very
right.
good. Very
yes.
good. Thank you. And so that's, the reason why we're having this conversation as well, is to, really allow business owners to see that they're a part of the solution, right? Of course, government is there with resources, but we also want small business owners and business owners to know that they're a part of, you know, what needs to happen in terms of transforming their communities and their stakeholders, and they should be at the forefront of this work as well. Annie, were you going to say something?
Yeah, and I just want to piggyback on that, Sheyla, because I think I don't know if business owners, maybe they know their power, and I'm not in touch with a lot of business owners all the time like you all are, but I can tell you that small business owners in Miami-Dade have a lot of political power. And you know, like every time I can think of being a commission at the county commission or a city commission meeting, and a business owner, you know, steps up to the mic and says, "I'm a business owner in your district, commissioner," or "I'm a business owner here in Miami-Dade County, and my employees are really struggling," or "This is what is affecting me and my ability to thrive." I don't know if business owners understand how incredibly powerful that is, given the makeup, first of all, period, but given the makeup of our commissions. And I think the political and sort of social culture of our community here, you know, I think rightly so, we put our business owners, you know, on a pedestal. They're driving so much of this economy. I mean, more than other cities, as we talk about plenty, I'm sure. But, you know, the politicians here need the business owners in a way that I'm not fully sure business owners, totally comprehend. And listen, you know, or not that they don't comprehend, but that they, you know, it's like hard to imagine that one voice means a lot. And listen, I know business owners are strapped it is a never-ending siege to be a business owner. But to the point that you were making, Sheyla, about trying to, you know, own some leadership, claim some leadership about what, you know, your neighborhood and what your community looks like, showing up at commission is a really powerful thing to do. Showing up at your commissioner's office, calling them even, it's hard to kind of overstate that,
Yeah.
excuse me.
Thank you, Annie.
And I want to go back and ask. I think, I don't know if I mentioned it before, but to the audience, are you cost burdened? When you do the math, are you 60%? Because there's about a quarter of Miami-Dade, which is extremely cost burdened, meaning that they're not only spending 30% of their income, they're spending 60% of their income. So where are you? And know that and understand that and advocate for that. I think that one of the things that I always mention is that I would like Miami to really have a reality check of where they are standing, because I think that the rest of the world sees us at the beach with a margarita every day, and that's not really Miami. That's not really Miami. In Miami, we have the other side of the coin also, where people are struggling to make ends meet. And when we think we are okay, we are really not. So, but that's a testament to our resilience, and I know that we can definitely make it. I also want to, Annie, kind of pick on you so you can talk about the Public Land for Public Good Coalition and the statements and how our viewers can actually take action on something like that.
Yeah, sure. So, you know, and I want to commend Mileyka for your leadership in this effort. You know, there is a really impressive, wonderful coalition of people who care about how housing is impacting our community, and who have identified that publicly owned land, it represents a really important opportunity to create housing that's, you know, lower cost and more deeply affordable for a long period of time. Because if it's publicly owned, then, you know, theoretically you can take away that cost in the development of new housing. So I think there's an opportunity. I would, you know, beg the audience to pay attention to this as well. The county commission, you know, I think with many good intentions, has been deploying publicly owned land for a long time for affordable housing purposes, rightly so. I think there are things we could do to improve that process and ideally, you know, maximize this land so that we actually see, you know, more deeply affordable housing, but also like just more. There's an opportunity not only with vacant properties, but also underused properties, where you could really get some more, we could get some more bang for the buck there. And in particular, there's one lot in the city of Miami, and that is in Allapattah, which I think you all must be very familiar with, which is the General Services Administration lot. It's like a parking lot. It's a little bit of like a dump kind of, like literally, right by the hospital district, quite literally, right? Well, it's what, 12th Avenue and 20th Street, and for a few blocks south, I think. So it's this really, really big lot in your neighborhood, in the center of the city, near transit, near thousands of jobs, and also away from the single family, like several blocks apart from the single family home neighborhoods, the residential neighborhoods. And it's really near like other very sort of tall buildings. So there's a big opportunity there. And it's owned by the city of Miami. The city of Miami, to its credit, I think sees the opportunity for what could be there that would really benefit the neighborhood and the city that is around it, in terms of affordable housing, in terms of green space, and in terms of job creation and supporting small businesses, creating opportunities for small businesses. So I think the vision is there, and the question is, will they do it? And a lot of the time, I think there's vision, and then there's implementation, and it's like things kind of get lost along the way, and pressures come. And I'm telling you that there are, as you all know, there are plenty of powerful pressures that our public officials are under, and all the time. And the kind of pressure that they're less under all the time is from our residents and our small businesses in neighborhoods that, as you were saying earlier, Sheyla, and you too, Natalie, that are pretty historically, disenfranchised and underrepresented and underinvested. And so it's super, super important that, all of you pay attention to what the city of Miami, your commissioner, your mayor, are going to do with this lot, and that you start to think about what would be good for you and your interests in your neighborhood in that lot. And there's going to be upcoming in the next, I think, several months, work that Miami Homes for All is doing with Mileyka and many others. There's going to be an opportunity for you to participate, and we're going to be reaching out. Mileyka is going to be reaching out to you about those opportunities to have that discussion, to learn what is possible and how, and also to learn what the city's goals are, and then to have a discussion about what we want to see there. So stay tuned to that.
Yes, and that's not only true for that lot, but that's true about public land throughout Miami-Dade County. So with that in mind, in the chat box, we are putting the link to the public land for public good statement. So you can read it, you can sign on to it. And what we would like is for residents of Miami-Dade County to be very well versed with that, so they know what to advocate for. So they have ideas on how we can make housing more attainable for everyone in Miami-Dade County.
Yeah. Thank you, Mileyka.
Yes.
So let's talk about what are some of the takeaways from what we're saying so far. So we have some ones that we want to throw at you, but again, Annie, what you said was just so good. Again, the purpose of these talks is to really speak to small business owners and bring you in on the conversations about what is going on in community issues and why it's important to you. It's there's no separate, like this is a public or private sector thing. As a business owner, you're a stakeholder in the community, and you should understand what is happening in your community. And through these talks, we want you to see that they do affect productivity. They do affect your employees. And we understand that in business, your most valuable asset is the people, your employees. And so it's important that you, there's value there. And just to give a little bit of of what we're going to talk about next week, one of the things we're going to mention is workplace wellness. So what are some things that you could be doing, very small, we can, small scale things, we'll talk about bigger things as well, that you can do to make sure that your employees are doing well. Because we all know that if your employee, if they're struggling with a housing issue, it's going to impact your productivity. So what are some things as a business owner you can share in terms of resources? Okay, so in terms of takeaways, we want you to remember that housing is a community-wide problem and it needs community-wide solutions, right? So from all stakeholders, including businesses such as yourselves. Available and affordable housing allows employees to attract and retain diverse employees. So another point is that housing costs absorb more than 50% of your workers' annual income. That's a lot of money. And so we think about the connection between health and housing, which Natalie communicated, laid out for us. We are now know that 50% of Miami-Dade County households are cost burden. So when we think about the social determinants of health, the fact that, it's hard to make sure that you have enough food or that you can get where you need to go in terms of transportation, or that you have enough money to do some activities. We know that a lot of times it's hard for residents to do this because we're paying so much in housing. So what can business owners do about that? Businesses can help by embracing market and policy solutions that improve housing affordability. Now, I know when you hear that, it might sound like a lot, like it sounds like maybe you're getting in like political space or you just don't want to confront that. We're here to tell you that the issues that are happening in your community, as a stakeholder, you have to be a part of it. And so being a part of solutions may be, attending a meeting at a community-based organization to hear about what are the strategies on addressing housing affordability. As a business owner, business owners, you're creative all the time. And so we know that you can add valuable, solutions to the conversation. So attend community meetings. You can attend, like Annie said, where commissioners are meeting, hearing about what the issues are happening in your community. Be a part of it. So those are some of the takeaways that we want you all to remember. Let's see, before we talk, let's see if we have any responses about if anyone is cost burden. Okay, I'm not sure if we got feedback on that from the audience, but we hope that we were able to really paint that picture about how cost burden really impacts everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Natalie, Annie, do you have any last minute thoughts?
So just just to reiterate, Miami-Dade County, when we're talking about our problem here, just for context, we're not only one of the most unaffordable places in the United States of America, we are one of the most unaffordable places in the entire world. And part of that does have to do with wages. We just have an average or median income that is significantly lower than places like New York, than San Francisco, that have much higher housing costs. They also have higher average wages than we do. So business owners, obviously, you have a lot within your control to try to address some of those wage issues. But more broadly, Annie made this point about when business owners show up to commission. I too have seen it with my own eyes. Commissioners are oftentimes on their phones or they're not paying much attention. But when a person walks up and says, I am so-and-so, I am the owner of the business located in your district, you will see them physically perk up. And so you have that power to step up. It takes an hour, it takes 30 minutes sometimes for you to just show up. And one of the things that we're doing at the Health Foundation of South Florida is we're actually standing shoulder to shoulder with organizations like Miami Homes for All and like the Allapattah Collaborative. And we're really letting them take the lead. So the mere fact that you all are here and paying attention, I think we have a lot to learn from these organizations and leaders like Sheyla as well, but especially in the housing space, I think taking the lead from Miami Homes for All, supporting their efforts because they're really on the forefront of the affordable housing solutions that are going to make sure that the heart and soul of our communities, our residents, can stay and continue to be employed by your organizations. I'm sorry, your businesses.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much, Natalie and Annie. Sheyla?
Sure. So this we have a question from the audience. It's a really great one, and it says, "Thank you, Jeremy. So consumers these days are wanting to know the political stance of business. I'm not sure if businesses can stay out of this arena." Such a good question, Jeremy. If this was a couple years ago, businesses would do just that. You know, it's two separate things. But what we've seen in more recent years, especially in 2020, businesses cannot shy away of what's going on in their community or even the political arena, right? We've seen with like bigger brands, when we think about the racial injustice we saw this year, consumers wanted to know, hey, what is this company? What are you doing about it? What is your stance on this? What are you saying on social media? What's your statement? And so businesses have to really think about it. And I know I gave an example of like a bigger brand, but this goes same example for your local barbershop or your coffee shop. You know, consumers really want to spend their dollar at a business where they know that there's some type of social good. So that's a really great question. And to help businesses as they need to think about, what does that look like for them? What's their social responsibility action plan? We'd love to take these conversations and ideas from this series, Monday Night Talks, to the next step. So we'd love for you to join me in designing a social responsibility action plan for you. This plan will be tailored for your specific business, customers, and stakeholders. This will include developing a vision, strategy, and tangible plan that will drive your competitive edge. So when you think about that, what I'm saying is that on December 7th, Monday, December 7th, from 5 to 6:30, I'd love to meet all of you for this free event where we'll talk about social responsibility. What does that look like for a local coffee shop? What does that look like for a barbershop? Hey, you may be a tax preparer and you want to know, does social responsibility truly apply to me? It does, and I'd love to help you figure out a social responsibility plan. Not just figure out, but to actually create one. Mileyka?
Yes. Oh my God, what a juicy conversation. I don't want to end this. It's just so much great data, so much great information. Thank you so much to our panelists and to all of you for joining us today. I hope this conversation has allowed us to understand and appreciate more deeply the impact and health implication of housing and COVID-19 on our small businesses. We want to thank the Health Foundation, the Miami Foundation, and SocialBridge Consulting for making this event possible. I encourage you to keep connecting beyond this event. Please let this be the introduction to continue the conversation with your friends and family, your colleagues, your employees, your clients about how to take care of each other during this crisis. I encourage you to please protect yourself, your employees, and your clients from COVID-19. Take the test. Have everyone in your family take the test, and have everyone in your business get tested. Encourage your clients to get tested. I also invite you to be an advocate for sustainable housing by signing the Public Land for Public Good statement, by clicking on the link on the chat box and reaching out to us for more ways to take action. Last but not least, visit our website, allapattahcdc.org, for more information and resources for your small business. Thank you very much and have a great night.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark Nelson, for that comment. Thank you so much. Good night.